Welcome to another episode of For Footballers Only. I'm Mikey Diokitis.
James Panay.
And today we have a special guest.
Most Ray with PG Youngboys.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes. All right, Most, let's just get right into it. Where does your football story begin?
It's funny because, like, most of the people that I run with or that have helped me with my football journey are from the Caribbean, are from Africa. It's rare because I am just a Black American, right? Mm-hmm. So my football story starts in New Jersey. I was born in New York, moved to Scotch Plains, New Jersey, and my parents, no sports background whatsoever. You know, ran with my boys in the neighborhood, and my mother, I guess, wanted to find things for me to do. So, like a typical American kid at that time, you know, I played basketball with my friends. I played baseball / stickball, and I played basketball. Now, the thing about it is, obviously, basketball is designed for tall people. I'm not a tall dude, right? So I would play because socially you had to play, right? I was pretty good at baseball, but it was natural stuff. We played a lot of stickball, which people probably don't even know what that is, but it's basically a version of baseball where you could play with two people, right? Pitching and hitting. That's the basis of it, right? Yeah. And then my mom, she signed me up. She started signing me up for stuff because I guess she felt like I didn't need to just be playing in the streets. She was going to get me organized or whatever. So tried all kinds of things. I remember even playing something called floor hockey, right? And then she signed me up for soccer. That was it. I loved it. Now, of course, in Scotch Plains, I would say, you know, the area I lived in was predominantly Black, but you could go across a certain road or whatever, it would diverge. You had an Italian section, you had a Jewish section of town, but a woman moved there from Canada named Vivian Young, and she started the Scotch Plains Fanwood Soccer Association. Now, at the time, nobody really cared about soccer, so she got the parks, she got every field she could find, and she created this recreation program. So I joined the recreation program. And, you know, just like now, I ended up on a team with, it was funny. The dude was a Spanish, he was Puerto Rican, I believe, but I can't swear to it because, you know, you didn't really differentiate that. He was a Spanish guy. He was a sanitation worker. Young guy, I think he was probably about 26 or something. I mean, it's hard to tell. I was in probably 4th or 5th grade. So I started in the soccer thing late, right? So when Jose had a little brother who went to school with me. So when he decided to do his rec team, everybody was like, you know, well, I'll take him and him. So our team comes out. We got 6 girls on our team because then they just played everybody together. Yeah. You know, me and, you know, I'm the only Black kid on the team. You know, his brother's the only Spanish kid. And then I guess they just plugged in people. They never heard their names. They just said, okay, you guys are on this team. So he starts practicing. Now, back then, you could just ride your bike to practice. Well, you had to. Your parents were at work. Yeah. So you always were on a team in your neighborhood or somewhat close. Rode my bike to practice. I'll never forget. First day we got there. He had his little bag of balls, and I'm like, oh, we getting ready to play soccer. Man, we start running around, and he just had us running. And he starts rolling the balls out, and he's showing us little stuff like scissor passes, they called them. And, you know, it was really just overlaps and movement. And he wasn't very good, but he kind of knew what he wished he could do. And he taught it to us. So we start playing, and it was the weirdest thing because we have our first game of the year and we're playing against this whole team full of like Italian kids whose daddies played. We got beat, man. It must have been 9-1, right? But the funny thing about this dude, all the other teams practice maybe twice a week. It might have been we trained 4 or 5 days a week. This dude was, because he got off by 3 o'clock. So 3 o'clock, we're at the field, training till dark. And ultimately, we started coming through. And I'll never forget, it was a set of twin girls on the team. And one was really good. And she started scoring goals. I was playing like left wing, or I'm pretty sure I was left wing because I could run fast. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't mind a good collision with a goalkeeper because back then they didn't call things the same way, you know? Yeah. So I was like, I've been used to playing street football, you know, American football and stuff. This was great. They punched the ball through. I run down on it. Here comes the goalie. I don't care, right? Run over him. And of course, the people who played soccer were like, hey, that's a foul, ref, da-da-da. But whatever. So we start playing. And ultimately, by the end of the season, we end up in the finals against that same team that beat us up.
Wow.
But by then, we had it together, and we beat them like 3-1. Now, I kind of knew then I wasn't really super skilled, but I really liked to play. And so then I would go down to this brick wall by my house, and I was going to learn how to use my left foot. And I didn't know you were supposed to know how to juggle, so I didn't try that. Because there was no one for me to play with. So you roll through it, and this woman also had 6,000 kids in this program.
Wow.
So what she did was, she said, they had something called Inner City. Now, Inner City was the best of the best. And I really wanted to play on this team. Well, I didn't have any connections. I didn't have anyone who would I would keep trying out. I must have tried out about 3 times before finally I made the team. And it was the most exciting thing ever. So we would meet at the parking lot at the junior high, and then people would drive us to games, like the parents. Like individual parents think, my parents probably never went to an away game. I'd get in the car, we'd go and we'd play, and I was like, this is great. You know, I'm going places, I'm playing. But it didn't cost much because she used the money from the rec program to fund the soccer. And back then, I don't think it cost that much anyway. And probably the ultimate moment was when we played against, I'll give away my age. We played against John Hart. We played against a club called Kearney, right? So I'm on this team. It was me and one other maybe black kid, right? And there was 2, because it was a Haitian guy too. And his father had played. So he was pretty good. You know what I'm saying? We were good, but we had learned, you know, through that process. There's no soccer on TV hardly. Cosmos are around. But there's nobody that I can watch to learn except for the older boys. You see what I'm saying? So I watch the older boys, but if they playing crappy, you ain't really learning the game. The IQ side of it wasn't really there. I'm going to be honest. You know, all of this is now looking back on it. At the time, you don't know. So I shoot. We got a game against Kearney, and people are like, yo. And I think I saw something on like ESPN 30 for 30 about that same team and how the town supported them. I thought they were Irish. I found out from the special they were Scottish. And man, we went there. I had never seen a crowd like that. And those boys were hard-nosed Scottish cats. And my guys that were with me were not built for that. And they put it on us. I'm guessing maybe Tab Ramos. I don't know who all his other contemporaries were. I saw it on the The only one we knew was John Hart. And that dude ran through us like a hot knife through butter. And I was like, man, so this is how it's supposed to be done, you know? I mean, it probably wasn't great even then, but it was better than what I had seen. So long story short, I finally go through, I get to high school, and I'm playing, but I'm still kind of junior varsity. And then finally, you know, and I haven't really told the story a lot, but I was actually just talking to a friend of mine who played with Keith Fletcher at Howard, who also went to my high school, but he was behind me. And so we started talking about our coach there. And I'll never forget, we were out on the field prior to, I guess it was the last cut of the before they really engaged the whole team. And so I'm out there, and it was a kid who, I won't say his name, but he was a year behind us, had a foot like a shovel, rocket shot, but he was soft as butter. So when we played, people would always know if they kicked him in the ankle or stepped on his foot that he would cry and be there. So I just started almost being like a little enforcer. I would just, whoever went after him, I just went after them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we're pretty cool. I get out there, and he sends a ball to me out on the wing. It goes out of bounds, and he says, hey, Mose, why didn't you get that? I thought niggers were supposed to be fast. Bruh. So I blacked out. All I remember was somebody holding on to me. And you know how you kind of, like, you know how back in the day dudes would fight, but they didn't really want to fight. So they want somebody grabbed and be like, oh, you lucky. Dude, I was trying my hardest, and this grip was so strong. And it was the coach. So he's like, what's going on out here? Of course, nobody said anything. And I wasn't going to say anything. You know, I didn't feel comfortable in telling him what was said to me. Mm-hmm. And the next day I got cut. Now, I can't swear that I would have regardless, but I'm thinking that probably had something to do with it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and the thing is, because my parents weren't really into sports, they really didn't understand how painful that was for me, right? That's all I wanted to do. I know I was playing the inner city, was doing good, but I wanted to play on that varsity squad. And so finally, I just, you know, of course you graduate, I go on to University of Maryland. I'm kind of forgotten about soccer. I'm getting into music now, right? And hip hop. But I remember they said, okay, yeah, we're going to have a try. They're having, you know, just walk on tryouts at University of Maryland. It's like that. I play basketball still. I'm lifting weights. I go out to the tryout. I knew right then my journey was over. I remember I was coming off of a cold, kind of like bronchitis type thing, but I wasn't a fool. I saw the way these dudes could play. Now picture, this is the same team I was trying out for that like had Desmond Armstrong on.
Oh my God.
So I'm looking, first of all, I'm probably 135 pounds and I'm 5'5". And they had, I mean, you had to be nasty to get on that team, especially at that time.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's it. You know, went back to doing whatever. Every now and then we play some pickup, but they always want to play in the morning, right? I'm out doing music, I'm partying. I'll never forget. I finally dragged myself out there to play at like 9 o'clock in the morning one day, and we're playing, and all of a sudden, dudes are going by me that they would have never been able to get by me if I was actually in shape. Yeah. And the game's no fun if you're not in shape. Yeah. It's miserable. Yeah. And afterwards, the fellas want to drink beers. Now I've been running around and I drink the beer and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to sit here like an hour longer now because I didn't eat breakfast or nothing. And after that, I played a little indoor with my floor at college, and I pretty much, boom, it's gone, right? Mm-hmm. Not playing soccer. Yeah. Fast forward to I have my first son, RJ. And I'm like, what's he gonna do? Tried baseball, but soccer you could do early. So I lied to get him into Bowie Boys and Girls Club, said he was 5 when he was 4. Then I get there and I'm like, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna buy my chair from Sports Authority or whatever. I'm gonna pop it open and I'm gonna watch my little superstar play ball. I'm starting him earlier, he'll be better than me. Right? Mm-hmm. Immediately, we need coaches. So I'm like, well, I'm not a coach. I'm not going to coach. They keep sending emails. My wife says, you're going to do this. And I said, no, I'm not. And she said, well, then I'll do it. I'll get that Soccer for Dummies book or whatever, right? So I said, okay, I'll do it. Step out there, and I had my little clipboard. I was gonna do, the 10-minute warm up. I had it organized. These kids were 5. I got out there. I had to just chuck the thing over my shoulder. I was like, okay, guys, showed them a couple of things, set up the cones, let them play. Yeah. Of course, some were more interested in playing than others. Well, what I found as I was doing that was that as I came back season after season, there was only like 3 or 4 kids that were coming back, and they were all brand new the rest of the way. So I started like looking around the league, and I was seeing other kids that I was like, yo, that dude's pretty good. So I was almost putting together an all-star team in my head. I was like, yeah. And I would talk to those parents and see what it is that they wanted. And one day I think I was in a Chick-fil-A or something. And I saw these 2 little black kids, and they had on little kits, say Quick Feed Soccer. I'm like, what's that? Quick Feed. That's kind of cool. So I talked to the mom, and they were like, yeah, it's soccer, this, that, and the other. I found out I actually worked with Justin Reed's mom. So, and I had met him obviously much, much younger because we had worked together. And then I said, oh, okay, cool. So I got in touch with him and started bringing my boy out to that. And then as time went on, we said, we're going to, hold on, I got to tell somebody to call him back. As time went on, I was like, man, we need to do, like, the kids were getting better because he had the little training group. I was like, well, I know some kids. What's it like to do a soccer club? Now, I don't know nothing about travel soccer. And he's like, well, travel soccer is a whole nother thing. I'm like, yeah, but I know good players. I'm going to put together this all-star. We're going to be killing them. Right? So we get these boys together. And we sign up for this league, CMSSL. And we join. And we don't have like the on age. So like we're really playing, at that point it was 2001, even though like my son was a 2002, or it might even been 2000. Anyway, he was playing up. And but that's the only way we could put a team together. So we're playing, and the first game we go to, I think we lost like 6-2. And I was like, we got some work to do, right? And so as I'm thinking we got work to do, and I'll never forget, we ran into this team called Bethesda Blue, right? So Bethesda Blue was run by a guy named Philip Joust. And these little kids demolished us, like beyond recognition, right? I didn't know children could play like that. And I sure enough didn't know little black kids could play like that, because the bulk of it, Yeah. So I'm like, yo, this is, so we take off the whole spring. We're just going to train and find little selective matches, almost like how if you're trying to bring up what you think is a championship boxer, you can't just put them in with the champ. Yeah. So you handpick the opponent so that they can come along. And we got better. We go back into the league. By then, we've split off into 2 teams. So the 2002 team had my son RJ on it, and we start playing. And we're rolling now. Now, CMSSL had promotion and relegation. So we play I'm like, I see Bethesda on the schedule. Oh, this will be a good, litmus test to see what we got. Go to the game. I don't recognize anybody from the team we had played before. Like, where are they at? And so we beat them. Like, well, we beat Bethesda, whatever. Next season or whatever, we play some more. We play some more Bethesda teams. None of them got the same kids on them, and we're beating them. I'm like, dang, what is going on? So finally, you're kind of timing out of CMSSL, because after like U10, they start doing like double age groups. It gets really diluted. So now it's like you guys probably have to go into travel soccer. So I ended up, we played in a tournament and we played, what do you know, another Bethesda team. And so I'm like, still, I recognized one guy and I went and talked to his parents. They were from here, like the Bowie area, right?
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Kid named, his name is Shy Neal, and he's actually in Germany now.
Yeah.
With his family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to, Tim and his wife, and, they're explaining that they're actually guest playing. They really play on Philip's team. And I'm like, well, where is that team? And so ultimately, RJ performed really well in that tournament. And of course, the coach comes and he tries to recruit my son. And I'm like, wait a minute. You talking about me driving? Now, I used to drive down the street to go to practice. You want me to go 45, 50 minutes? And so I was like, oh, man. And, I really didn't think that it was probably a good idea. So I started searching around. But then what happened, they were like, yeah, well, you'll be training with this guy, Philip Zhao, like probably 3 days out of the week or 2. And then because they train the teams together. I'm like, okay. I go and he joins the team. It's really the second team. That first team is the team that we saw years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been playing up the whole time. That's the only reason we played them, because they always played up a year. So what it ends up is the thing with Quick Feet, we kind of timed out. They didn't let black clubs into NCSL at the time.
Yeah.
Like they just kept everybody blocked out. So there really wasn't any options. And that's kind of the way that like a lot of the teams, the kids from this area, like the Bowie PG area, end up spread out all over the place, because we really can't put together any clubs because they get blocked out from participating in various leagues and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So, played for a while. He played like a year, and he finally ended up at DC United. And they were really horrible his like U12 year, and then they just got better and better. Ultimately, he played on the team with, the guys that you probably do know, like Jacob Green, Moses, Jeremy Garay. There was several dudes that are playing over in Europe now. I mean, that team was probably, they ranked it like the number 8 team in the country at one point. Kevin Paredes, all of them were on the team. So he played on the right back. Jacob Green played on the left. I mean, it was a lot of fun. In the meantime, during that time, my other 2 sons, when we had went to Bethesda, ended up bringing them too. First time I ever saw prices like that. I take my kids because, at Quick Feet, I helped out, and it cost, but it was minimal relative. These cats sent me a bill I'll never forget. It was for like $6,000 for 3 kids. And you picture my youngest, Ramsey, is 6, 7 years old. Now listen, the league that they played in was also run by Bethesda. I had signed our Quick Feet team, our younger kids, up there. It was $150 to join the league. But yet, for him to play there, because I was traveling, and I didn't even ask about the teams. I said, listen, let's just put him, who's practicing at the same time? So my middle son, Romero, whose computer we're using, he played with the same coach that RJ had. Okay. And then Ramsey, who was little at the time, played with the other one. Now, in the same time, Keith Fletcher at the time was good friends with Wendell, Regis, right? So he was telling me about how this training was, because Christian played with us. So winding it back to when we were doing Quick Feet, on the side, the little brothers were what we would do is they would play pickup soccer. Oh. So if RJ's 8, Romero's 6, Ramsey's 4. And Keith started, like he came out, he had on his tie. He's kind of standoffish a little bit. And then he started kind of jumping in because, he loves the game. He loves it, right? So he starts showing the dudes little moves, using the bottom of their foot or how to do this, that. You show them stuff for about 10 minutes. We set up the pug goals, and you had Taye's kid, Matai. You had my son Ramsey. Romero took a little bit of time because at first he just wanted to climb trees, and eventually he said, "You know what? This looks like fun." He started playing. Kid named Dylan. I mean, we had these kids are all really successful right now. Okay, so they were like the 2005 generation. So they're like U16s and 17s now. That's how far back this was.
Yeah.
So they start kicking it around, and we decide, even though our kids are playing like with other teams at this point, we're gonna put together our little squad. And we trained at Kingsford Elementary. And then we would go play in the Sam League up in Germantown at the soccerplex. And I could send you some video. There's still video out of them playing at that age. They were nasty. It was so fun. The parents loved it. We were all good friends. I mean, it was when it was fun. Yeah. So we would take our little guys and we would go up there, and they would play every Saturday or Sunday. I don't remember. And on the little turf fields, they had the little, so I guess they were 6v6 or 7v7, something like that. Mm-hmm. So all these guys, and I will say that Keith was a big part of the development of these players that I'll talk about later, right? Mm-hmm. Taye was like, because his son was playing too, he helped us more with the organization. I organized. And a little later, this guy named Damian Hurge came on, Jamaican dude. His son just went to a national team camp. He's a 2007. And so we would just play him. So we're playing Bethesda, and we're playing in our own league. Ultimately, it turns into PG Youngboys because we started playing in Soccer Dome in the winter. And at first, we had the PG Youngboys colors and everything. Not PG Youngboys, Youngboys, the originals. But the funny thing is, more people know us around here than know that it's a real team. And then they'll be like, yo, I was on FIFA. They stole your logo, bro. So I'm like, not quite. but the problem was the logo said BSC Youngboys. Okay. Which also was Bethesda Soccer Club. And I was like, we don't need that confusion. Yeah. So I had somebody turn it into Prince George's Young Boys, which shortens to PG Young Boys. Yeah.